The 2025 freshman quarterback class has a lot of hype to it. There are plenty of big names ranging from Colorado's Juju Lewis, USC's Husan Longstreet, Auburn's Deuce Knight, Tavian St. Clair of Ohio State, and even Keelan Russell from Alabama. But no one, no one, is getting as much hype as Michigan's true freshman quarterback Bryce Underwood. Seen as a prodigy for about 4 years now, Underwood has taken over high school football and is seen as the best quarterback prospect coming out of high school in quite some time. He got a huge NIL deal that pushed him away from LSU to come home to Michigan, and truly, this guy is a huge deal. He checks pretty much every single box you want in a quarterback right away, and some are wondering if he's going to play this season and help Michigan get back to glory that they experienced just 2 years ago. Today, I want to introduce you to who Bryce Underwood is. We're going to talk about the freshman quarterback who's going to break college football, go through his journey and how he got to this point, his recruitment, how he is so far settling in with the Wolverines. But before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you want to support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's get started and talk about Bryce Underwood. So, Bryce Underwood wants to be in the Hall of Fame one day. He's probably on his way at this point, and his inspiration comes from all angles. His dad at one time was a promising high school prospect, and he was supposed to go to Texas A&M until he didn't. He said, quote, "That's a conversation over a glass of whiskey and a cigar," Jaquan Underwood said. His dad had plenty of experience, and Bryce grew up playing youth football with a guy by the name of Dante Moore. He was a 5-star recruit, and is supposed to take over for Oregon this year as a junior. He was also well connected with a guy by the name of Daquan Finn, who was previously a superstar at Toledo and had 1 year at Baylor before he is now at Miami of Ohio. He ended up growing up in the state of Michigan and not too far away from Ann Arbor. He was in a town called Belleville. At the age of 8, he was already 5'3", and by the age of 10, he was playing against 17-year-olds. He was playing high school varsity football games just weeks after his 15th birthday, and he actually threw for over 3,000 yards and 39 touchdowns that season, giving him the title of Max Prep's National Freshman of the Year back in 2021. Underwood said, quote, "That's the way my parents raised me. I grew up at a young age mentally and physically, and it was insane, honestly. Where did this come from?" Bryce's first offer would come from Kentucky back in 2021, and that was at the delicate age of 14 when he was in 8th grade. Everything about him screams too soon, but Underwood was always playing up in competition and always beating people that were older than him. Ask Underwood's throwing coach Donovan Dooley, who has seen the guy develop since he was 8 years old. He said, quote, "Bryce used to have to pull out his birth certificate all the time. His dad was like, I want my kid to play against older guys. These younger kids, they aren't going to do it." When Bryce started doing that, he was better than them. Underwood's head coach in high school was a guy by the name of Calvin Norman, and he had been around the profession for nearly 35 years. Dooley says that he was telling other college coaches that Underwood would be the #1 player in the country as a 7th grader, and it happened. Norman said, quote, "I actually started telling college coaches that coach, this kid will be the #1 player in the world." Now they're like, dude, I don't know how you knew that. So yeah, he was the Max Prep's Freshman of the Year in 2021 and the Max Prep Sophomore of the Year in 2022. His sophomore numbers tell the story, as he had nearly 2,800 yards and 37 touchdowns, plus 600 yards and 8 touchdowns on the ground. So in terms of his recruitment, he was now a 5-star recruit and someone that every coach wanted. But where was he going to go? Well, the early frontrunner was actually Michigan, as he was impressed by J.J. McCarthy. In the fall of 2023, he said, quote, "McCarthy's having a great year. I'm so proud of him." That season, he was once again the Gatorade Michigan Player of the Year, as he ended up having 3,300 yards with 44 touchdowns and only 3 picks. He also completed 65% of his passes. After the season was over, he was ranked as the #1 recruit in the country. At 16 years old, he then chose his school, and he was now headed to LSU. He chose the Tigers over Bama, Florida State, Michigan, Oregon, and Penn State, and after producing 2 Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks in 5 years, it made sense for him to go to Baton Rouge and choose to be an LSU Tiger. They were starting to become QBU. As I said, he chose the Tigers over pretty much every school in the country, including the school in his backyard, Michigan. For about a year, nobody was really talking about it, but with how bad the Michigan quarterback room got this past fall, all of a sudden there was some talk. Momentum started to change, and things eventually flipped. Eventually, there was an NIL deal worth nearly $10 million on the table, and this also included win-based and championship-based incentives. Where did this come from? Well, some talk about Dave Portnoy, and others talk about the second richest guy in the world, Larry Ellison. According to Forbes, Ellison is the co-founder of Oracle and boasts a net worth of $237 billion. Larry Ellison's wife was apparently a Michigan alum, and he decided to help out the Wolverines and try to get them back on the right track, especially at the quarterback spot. It reached such a crazy fervor by the end of October of 2024 that their quarterback signee, Carter Smith, who was a 4-star, had decided to decommit, and eventually he ended up at Wisconsin. Some at the time thought he had reaffirmed to LSU, but then it just kind of happened and stayed home, just like everybody thought. Michigan football landed a massive recruiting win as that 5-star quarterback picked the Wolverines. This commitment stood as one of the most important victories in the program's recent history, which is nuts, and the Belleville Star changed his mind and decided to stay close to home with the Wolverines under head coach Sherrone Moore. His decision to switch from LSU has created some waves throughout college football, especially in the recruiting world, as this now proves that Michigan is a destination for big-time quarterback players. Or is it money? I don't know. You can probably guess. Underwood's commitment, though, made him the highest-ranked recruit to ever commit to Michigan football, and Wolverines fans are ridiculously excited. Right around the time, Michigan actually fired their offensive coordinator Kurt Campbell, and this would happen a day before Underwood would sign. He also helped clear out the quarterback room, as both Alex Orji and Jaden Denegal decided to enter the 2025 NCAA transfer portal, and they were now getting out of the way. Underwood was not alone in the 2025 class, as Chase Herbstreit, the son of Kirk Herbstreit, also joins the loaded quarterback room. 24/7 Sports recruiting director Alan True, who actually lives in Michigan, said, quote, "We've had some good quarterbacks come out of Michigan in the last decade, but Bryce tops the list coming out of high school." According to 24/7 Sports, Underwood is the #1 quarterback, a 5-star recruit, and the #1 player in the class of 2025. Of course, he's going to have plenty of hype going into his Michigan time, and he actually started practicing by the end of 2024 for them. The Underwood hype has been going strong in Ann Arbor since November, and it's not about to slow down anytime soon, especially with the spring game coming up in about 2 weeks. One of the main raging debates this offseason, not just in Ann Arbor, but across all of college football, is about whether or not he's actually going to play and start the season for Michigan. I mean, with the amount of money that they're paying him and the amount of talent he has, I see no reason why he shouldn't, but at the same time, he is only 18 years old. Michigan had a terrible quarterback situation last year, as at first it was Alex Orji, and he wasn't any good. Then you had the feel-good story of Davis Warren, but he wasn't really any good. Jaden Denegal couldn't get on the field. Jaden Davis essentially opted out of the season, and 15th-year quarterback Jack Tuttle couldn't get the job done either. None of those 5 options were any good, and Michigan really needed to figure some things out. So far, things are already looking a little bit better, as fan favorite Davis Warren said, quote, "Bryce is a great kid first and foremost. He loves football, and you can tell he's a competitor. I think it's a little bit of a beautiful thing, the way he comes in versus the way I came in." As a result of that terrible quarterback room, the Wolverines brought in an experienced option in former UCF and Fresno State quarterback Mikey Keene. But they also returned Jaden Davis, who will be a redshirt freshman, and of course Davis Warren is once again there. Coach Sherrone Moore said, quote, "I mean, you've got Mikey, you've got Bryce, and you've gotten Jaden Davis. And Jaden Davis is no slouch. He's a kid that came in highly touted, is super competitive, and I love his spirit and ability. So right now we've got those 3 guys that are really in the thick of the battle." One of my favorite parts about college football is how coaches use certain terminology and they don't really say anything. In that paragraph, he literally just said we have 3 options. Like, I get it, they have to gatekeep things to a certain degree, but seriously, you're not actually thinking about starting Davis Warren over Bryce Underwood, and Jaden Davis is definitely second fiddle right now. But again, I'm not at the Michigan practices and I'm not a coach, and I also don't have to deal with PR. Michigan's defense says that he already looks like a veteran, and that the biggest takeaway that they've seen in practice is he's a player who doesn't look like someone who just arrived and has yet to take a college snap, which is technically Bryce. With someone like Underwood, who's currently 6'4" and 228 pounds, that's easier said than done. But some don't think that he can play right away. I mean, he's 18 years old and pretty dang young. This is where I say Jeremiah Smith and Ryan Williams enter the conversation, but with someone like Underwood, who's 6'4" and 228 pounds and has started the last 4 years, I think he does have a real opportunity. He has a big body, which jibes more with upperclassmen, as well as he also has a dual threat skill set, and he's going to cause a lot of problems for opposing teams. But there is a chance this doesn't exactly work out. We've seen in college basketball and college football that just because you pay a lot of money in NIL doesn't mean it actually works and you get a good return on investment. It's understandable why Michigan invested so heavily into Underwood, but it's still unquestionably a gamble. There's a solid chance with a guy like him it works out, but right now everything's uncharted in the world of NIL, and this could be a great example of how not to or how to do NIL in the future. It also sets a dangerous precedent and brings the price tag up for everyone else when you pay that amount of money, but at the end of the day, it's either going to work out gloriously for Michigan or it's going to burn them. The last 5-star quarterback they got was J.J. McCarthy, and he brought them to a title, so I'm sure they are trying to double down and have that same sort of success with Underwood. For now, we'll have to wait and see, but I'm excited to see him trot out this fall. I'm excited to see his 3 years in Ann Arbor, and also see how Sharon Moore does in year 2. But what do you guys think? If you're a Michigan fan, how good will Bryce Underwood be this fall? How do you think Michigan will do this season? And what other freshman quarterback should he have a spotlight on next? My goal is to cover every 4-star quarterback in the class of 2025, so be sure to drop your suggestion down below, leave a like if you want to support today's video, subscribe if you're new, and check out all my other videos on the end screen. I hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.